Hi, my name is Eman Al-Zubeidi and I'm an instructional assistant professor at Illinois State University. A Walk Alone is a virtual reality simulation that highlights the dangers women face when walking alone at night. I'm presenting on behalf of my team from Texas A&M University, who developed a Walk Alone under the supervision of Dr. Jinsil Hwaryoung. Our team includes 3D asset modelers Julia Delaney, Dominic Nguyen, Jaime Diaz, and developer Jonathan Conderla. In early 2021, the disappearance and murder of Sarah Everard, a 33-year-old woman who went missing during her walk home alone, sparked an international conversation about women's safety. We created a Walk Alone as a reaction to the tragedy in hopes of raising awareness about the dangers women face when walking alone at night. Unfortunately, this is a common occurrence around the world. According to the World Health Organization, 736 million women globally have been subjected to physical or sexual violence between the years of 2000 and 2018. In the United States alone, 61% of women regularly take precautions to avoid being sexually assaulted, as opposed to only 26% of American men. Some of those precautions include maintaining awareness of one's surrounding, having a phone prepared, avoiding certain areas, and informing others about one's location and schedule. While researching the best medium to tackle this topic, we found that virtual reality can be used as a powerful tool to evoke empathy. VR characteristics like immersion, presence, and embodiment impact users' understanding of other people's situations. VR, which is also known as the empathy machine, can encourage us to help people such as refugees, the homeless, and people with physical and mental disabilities. To better understand empathy, we investigated the two components it's made of. Cognitive empathy relates to the understanding of someone else's perspective and being able to judge and understand the intention of others, while affective empathy is about experiencing another person's feelings and having an appropriate emotional response to their situation. As inspiration, we collected a library of artworks that utilize virtual reality to trigger empathy in users. Cloud Over Sidra is a 360 VR video sponsored by the United Nations, which highlights the story of Sidra, a 12-year-old Syrian girl in a refugee camp in Jordan. Sidra leads you through her daily life, eating, sleeping, learning, and playing in Zatari, home to 130,000 Syrians fleeing violence and war, with children making up half of the camp's population. We also drew inspiration from a previous project developed under the supervision of Dr. Jinsil Hwaryoung. Colors for All raises awareness about the daily challenges faced by people with color blindness. The 360 VR application consists of scenarios like driving, shopping, and cooking that present the user with different colorblind conditions. This project allows people with normal color vision to experience different types of color blindness in order to witness its impacts on their daily lives. Other works we looked at included a study examining the effectiveness of using virtual environments in battling implicit stereotypes. The study reported that a schizophrenia virtual reality simulation induced greater empathy and more positive perceptions towards people suffering from schizophrenia than the control group with the written empathy set condition. As a result of our research and inspiration, we created a Walk Alone, a virtual reality experience that simulates what it feels like to walk alone at night as a woman in order to highlight the dangers women face on a daily basis. The experience is centered around a linear story involving a night city environment, the user in first-person point of view, eerie sound design, and dim street lighting. During the project development, we researched related works to inspire our visual and sound design. Phasmophobia is a fictional horror game that gained popularity for its powerful psychological stimulation in both regular gameplay and the virtual reality version of the game. A great contributor to the emotional stimulation it elicits is its detailed sound design. The user is swept up in a believable auditory experience that involves location-based sound as well as a variety of different sound effects. Other horror games like Slender: The Arrival played an important role in inspiring our audio and visual design. Even though these games are not set in virtual reality and contain fictional elements, Our main takeaway consisted of dimly lit environments and eerie sound design to elicit emotional unease. Outside of psychological stimulation, we also looked at references of movement within virtual reality. Onward utilizes the trackpad to move the user in the virtual reality space. Since the user is not moving in real life, this method may trigger motion sickness. A way to combat this is to restrict the field of view of the user when they're walking, or to use smooth and slow motion. We also reviewed Vindicta, which offered a more creative solution for locomotion. To move forward, the user has to swing their arms in a walking motion while holding both controllers. Even though this method requires natural physical movement that can control the user's speed, we felt it would be too distracting of a motion. We decided to use trackpad touch as our method for locomotion. To combat motion sickness, we maintained slow and controlled locomotion movement paired with a dimly lit environment that restricts the user's peripheral vision. Since the simulation is set in an urban city at night, we created a comprehensive collection of three-dimensional assets like construction signs, trash cans, windows, parking meters, and dumpsters. These assets were modeled in Maya and surfaced and textured in Substance Painter. They were textured with gritty, street-like materials and graffiti to make the space seem true to an urban city environment. Other notable three-dimensional assets included a replica of the real-life missing persons poster of Sarah Everard. We scattered the posters throughout the environment to connect the narrative to the real-life dangers women face in society today and to encourage users to reflect on their experiences after the simulation. Different door and window models were imported into Houdini to procedurally generate different window and door layouts for each building. Using this method permitted the generation of buildings that appear different, even though most of the buildings are made up of the same base models. Time constraints limited asset production to only include the most valuable objects in the environment. Therefore, park environment assets and the user's car were outsourced from Unreal Engine's marketplace. Sound plays a vital role in supplementing our visual-heavy simulation to reinforce an eerie mood. We created a spatial sound design to plot the auditory experience. Whenever the user enters the trigger boxes that are set up in Unreal, area-specific sounds are played. On the other hand, looped sounds are constantly playing in the simulation but can only be heard within a specific radius near the sound. These sound effects begin to accumulate over time to overstimulate the user. Towards the end, the absence of sound is intended to leave the user in an uncomfortable silence with an emphasis on their own breathing. To help the user navigate the virtual environment, mobile notifications act as diegetic guides that pop up in front of the user. Text messages from the user's best friend direct the user to complete tasks like walking around the construction site to get to the car, which ultimately guide the user from start to finish. Mobile alerts like low battery or signal lost amplify the fear factor intended to be conveyed to the user and act as narrative triggers that increase anxiety. The experience starts with an introductory trigger warning and ends with real-life statistics that shed a light on how many women are affected by sexual assaults and the precautions they must take when walking alone in public. Since the user's field of vision gets darker towards the end of the experience, the simulation fades to black once the user reaches their car, then finally transitions into a blank screen showing statistical data in a visually appealing manner. Finally, we leave the user with the message that women can take all the precautions in order to make it home safely, but ultimately, the root of the issue lies on the harasser. Here's a demonstration of the simulation. You can see how the virtual environment of a walk alone is dimly lit and claustrophobic in nature to reduce the viewer's field of vision and stimulate psychological distress. The main objective of the simulation consists of triggering feelings of isolation and vulnerability by prompting the user to navigate through sparsely lit environments like eerie alleyways and an empty park in first-person point of view. We conducted a public demonstration including 16 participants, 10 of whom identified as male. Before experiencing a walk alone, 62% of our users claimed to be knowledgeable or very knowledgeable of the dangers women face when walking alone at night. After the simulation, that percentage increased to 83.1%. In regards to immersion, most participants stated that statistics displayed at the end of the experience were the most effective and educational. Other users stated that the sounds were most effective since the auditory immersion made them more aware of the environment or gave them a general sense of fear. The remaining users stated that not being able to walk faster or knowing that your phone died sparked increased anxiety. 81.3% of users claimed that they were fully immersed in the narrative and environment and felt vulnerable during the simulation. The participants' engagement with the visuals, sounds, and notifications is a great indicator that they were engrossed in the story both emotionally and psychologically. Regarding being good allies, 55% of users stated that they are careful or very careful of their presence and actions around women who are alone at night. That leaves the remaining percentage of our users as not being careful, somewhat careful, or neutral in said situation. With overwhelmingly positive results, all users stated that they are likely or very likely to take action to ensure a woman near them feels safe when walking alone at night after experiencing a walk alone. After a few revisions to lighting and adding more roadblocks, we successfully orchestrated an experience where most of our users navigated our simulation smoothly. Almost 69% of our users responded that it was easy or very easy to navigate the scene to find their way to the car. One user stated that the actual walk was the most effective in putting me in the mindset of walking alone and the potential dangers that are associated with it. In addition to the majorly positive feedback, we also received some constructive suggestions to help improve the overall experience. A few participants felt like they were walking too slow, while some users enjoyed that feature because it triggered anxiety. Some participants even felt motion sickness in spite of the slow navigation. While one user stated that it was chilling to hear what was behind you without seeing it, another felt like not seeing the objects triggering the sound effects made it difficult to attach certain sounds to the environment. Suggestions like seeing shadows, having characters walking around or standing in odd places, and adding jump scares give us an idea that some participants would also like to be visually stimulated as well as through sound design. Similarly, one user felt as though the message could be communicated more effectively if more graphic scenarios played out during the experience. An example was simulating an assault happening to the user if they don't get to the car in time. This sparked an idea that the statistics that are displayed at the end could have been incorporated into the simulation more interactively, which could increase the effectiveness of teaching users of the dangers women face when walking alone at night. Overall, users describing the experience as rather terrifying, uncomfortable, and realistic proves that a walk alone is making an impact regarding the issue. It also demonstrates that we need to continue to discuss and confront the dangers women still face on a daily basis. Finally, I would like to thank ISEA for giving us the opportunity to present a walk alone and to the audience for attending our lecture.